Hello and welcome back to Charging Status, the EV-focused podcast brought to you from The Interface. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jim Starling. How are you doing, Jim?
Hi Alex, I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Yeah, all good.
Good. Nearly at 1,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel, I see.
I'm so close. Yeah, I think it's on, as of recording, I think 952. So I'm very, very close to that magic number. So if you're watching this and you don't know that there's a Interface Cars channel, go to youtube.com/The Interface Cars, at The Interface Cars, and you'll find the car channel. Lots of good car reviews in there, everything from EVs to petrols and other things. So go and check that out.
Do it.
So in the month that's gone past, what have we both been up to?
Okay, so I've been to Goodwood Festival of Speed, would have been my biggest event in the last month, I guess.
That was mega.
That was
Yeah,
it was really good. Yeah, really good. Really enjoyed it. I feel like it's so spread out now that it's difficult to find specific things when you're there.
yeah,
But aside from that, I mean, just any direction you go in, there's something else that's really cool. Quite a mixture between electric stuff now and obviously classic stuff, new stuff. But there's a bit of something for everyone, which is nice. The one thing that does stand out though, when you're watching cars doing the hill climb, is the lack of theatre you get with the electric cars. I mean, some of them go past at such a ridiculous speed and it looks incredible, but you don't get that sort of visceral side of it. And I was thinking about how motorsport's going to deal with that. I don't know if they'll end up with synthesized vehicle noises, or maybe they'll go to synthetic fuels instead of going electric with motorsport or with some of it. I don't know, but that was an interesting thing that I hadn't properly considered
yeah.
until that day, I think.
I think that's fine. Like, you could. I follow a lot of EV people on Twitter, and you could say like, okay, 100% of everything needs to be electric, but the main thing is if a very, very large portion of the whole car fleet is electric, then we've still got a little bit of room left over for motorsport and different things.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. As long as everyone, like Joe Blogg's going to work every day, he's doing that in an EV, that's fine. But if you've got the enthusiast little bit, that little bit of pollution is fine. So I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I think we've still got ferries and planes and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, but realistically, a couple of race cars are not going to kill the planet.
What I thought about Goodwood was the amount of social media content from Goodwood themselves was really good, because if you hadn't have gone to the event, you can still see what's going on. So like Goodwood's Twitter account were posting videos and stuff. It was really cool to see. I didn't have to leave Twitter to go and look at the videos. And there was like BYD Yangwang doing its thing, and it was awesome to watch from outside of Goodwood. So it was quite cool. So.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Speaking of BYD, by the way, like they had one of the most impressive stands at Goodwood, and obviously they've turned up with their entire fleet of BYD cars, but also the Yangwang cars, and that one, the U9, which is just an incredible looking machine, and obviously it dances, spins on its own axis. I mean, if it produced a coffee, it wouldn't have surprised me. It's just an amazing thing, and I think it was interesting to see brands that, I mean, there's one Chinese brand that I hadn't heard of, and they had a stand.
Was that Honky?
The HQ. It's just a series of syllables basically thrown together. But I mean, they had a decent stand, and I've never heard of them.
So interestingly, that's the oldest car company in China, and that car brand started before Chinese citizens were even legally allowed to own cars.
Wow.
So I remember they were watching a Grand Tour episode where I think it was season 3, they went to China, and they had this huge, like, £100,000 limo from that company that they tested. And it was like the most luxurious car in the world or something like that. So it's quite interesting. But yeah, I didn't realise that until I looked it up, that people in China weren't allowed to buy cars at one point. It was really weird, but
yeah, it's quite a bold move though, I think, to I don't know. There may have been stuff in the press and I've missed it,
Yeah,
but it seemed like Hello UK was just turn up with a big stand at Goodwood,
yeah.
which is a bold move, and you could certainly see like those challenger brands really turning it on to impress people,
Yeah.
and I think BYD having come off their sponsorship of the Euros,
Mm,
and it was everywhere, wasn't it,
it
during the
was.
Euros? I think it's a really wise move for them to go there with a big stand, big presence, and kind of impress people like that. The Electric Avenue was good as well. There was lots of stuff in there that we may have seen in magazines or people doing walk around videos and things, but to actually be able to get in some of them. The Renault 5 was there,
Mm.
the new Alpine variant. They both just look so cool. I just cannot wait to drive one, although Renault don't seem to like me driving things. So I don't know how quickly that might happen. The Capri was there, which
Yes,
we're going to have to talk about
we
that
will do.
because I think it's a steaming turd, and you seem to quite like it. So we'll have a chat about that. So loads of really cool electric stuff. Obviously, that new Genesis Magma
Oh,
range. Yeah, all looks so cool.
yeah,
And some crazy drift cars, and
yeah.
sort of just plenty of great stuff to see.
I had two questions because you were on the ground. Like, I don't know if you were running around filming stuff, but I don't know if you had. I don't know if you overheard people's conversations because, like, if you look at the murmurings around Chinese brands online, it seems like every man and his dog is just whinging about them. But in person, do you think, because obviously you get keyboard warriors and stuff, do you think that in person people are a bit more impressed, or did you get that perception or not?
Yeah, so there was. I heard both actually,
Okay,
but certainly stuff like that U9, people were flocking to it,
really?
and not just when it was dancing.
Right.
It just looks so
Yeah, it
cool.
does.
But some of the others, you'd hear people saying, "Oh, this looks cool. What is it?" And then you'd hear someone saying, "Oh, it's some Chinese crap or
Right.
something else that's remotely racist," um, and just kind of totally discrediting it. And I heard a couple of people around Electric Avenue saying, "Oh, I'm not going in there. It'd be like going in Curry's," and those
Right.
just daft
Yeah.
comments from. Um, y- Generally, you could see they were people with fairly low intelligence as well. The man that said it would be like going in Curry's wouldn't surprise me if he spent a significant amount of his day concentrating on breathing with his mouth closed and not trying to bite his own neck. Um, but yeah, it's just that kind of nonsense. But there were loads of people looking at cars
Okay.
that were kind of massively impressed, and you could tell some of them. I mean, when someone's wearing like a Red Bull shirt and they're absolutely in love with the Renault 5
Mm.
or the Ioniq 5N or something, you can see that these cars are going to be the ones that will possibly convert some real die-hard petrol heads.
Yep. Yeah, definitely agreed. Before we move on, I think we mentioned the GV60 Magma. That's actually, excuse me, that's currently at their Westfield store in London until the end of August. So I'm going to go and see that at some point before it goes. So it's on display, ready for people to see. And then the Renault 5, I believe I think it's in the Eurostar train station currently. I
Oh,
saw
okay.
Jim Holder put on LinkedIn that for people who don't know, he's the head of Renault Press, but he used to work as a car journalist. He said that it's currently like they're trying to make it a British icon, but a French car. I'm not sure what's going on there, but they put it in the Eurostar train station, so it's for people to look at. So that's what you need. You need these nice designs sort of in front of people's eyes, and you can see what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. That's all the Goodwood stuff. Last week, this has happened twice now. We both gone to the same car event, but on different days. So we both went to Caffeine Machine over in Stratford, and I believe this was your first time going to a Caffeine Machine location. So what did you think?
It's all right.
It's all right, yeah.
Yeah, I think the concept's really cool. Basically, take an old pub and turn it into a coffee shop.
Yep.
And there were some pretty tasty cars turning up in the car park and everything. So, yeah, no, it's good.
Pretty good. So we went to drive the brand new Golf. a little bit unrelated for this podcast because there isn't an EV version yet. But we drove the new 8.5 Golf. But at the day with their marketing stuff, they did mention that there is going to be. They didn't specifically mention an EV Golf, but they said the Golf will remain in VW's portfolio in the electric future. I think that was the line they said. So just put that out there. So
Yeah, so I had a bit more of a chat about that,
Okay.
and basically said it would be almost suicidal
Yeah,
to
yeah.
just throw away the Golf, and it needs to live on. And that I sort of jumped in with, wouldn't it be great if it was something that was sort of retro modern?
Yes.
And I think everyone there was in agreement that that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be too far away.
Okay.
Because I think usually a midlife facelift of a car. I know this one's been more of a correction than a
Yeah.
facelift, perhaps, but I can't see it being too many years until we've got a fully electric Golf that is a ground up fully electric Golf.
So there was an article the other day that said 2029, and I just saw that date and thought, oh my god, that's 10 years away. But it's actually not that far away.
No, it's not. No, we maybe need to do some work on your counting.
Yeah, I think so. So it's not actually that far away. So, and if you think it's been 4 or 5 years since the Mark 8, so it's time goes quick. So yeah,
I was thinking this new one will probably have 4 years of life.
yeah. So,
And then I guess the next one that they'll still have obviously hybrids available.
Yep.
But I'm guessing they might either develop it as electric first or have two completely different,
like the Mini.
sitting side by side. Yeah. Which works really, really well.
Oh god, yeah. So yeah, overall, again, it's unrelated to this podcast, but the Golf. I thought the new Golf was really good. We both got videos out on our respective channels. There's a version of the Golf for everyone, even if it isn't electric just yet. But there is a new plug-in hybrid version which does have way more range than it used to. I think nearly 90 miles of range now. So that's all good stuff.
That'll do really well, I think. I mean, I had the diesel on the day.
Yep.
It's the first time I've driven the diesel for a long, long time, and it was really good. But I think the plug-in hybrid is the natural successor to that diesel.
Yeah. Yep.
And with 88 miles of range,
And that's huge.
I mean, that's a game changer.
Yeah. And again, just unrelated, I thought the manual. You didn't drive the manual, but the manual gearbox in the new Golf feels so. It's almost like a well-oiled machine. It's so buttery smooth. The gearbox. It's so nice. They've done a really good job with that. But sadly, the Golf GTI won't have a manual now. So going forward, that won't. But yeah.
They did say that the Club Sport's coming as well. There's going to be a GTI Club Sport and obviously an R.
Yep.
But randomly, they're not going to do a GTI or GTE for the estates. There's going to be a plug-in hybrid estate, but there won't be a GTE estate.
Okay.
There is going to be an R, though.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Before we move on to other stuff, I can't remember when it was. I think it was earlier this month. You bought a new to you car.
Yep.
What have you got yourself? Well, you've revealed it on your channel, but
I've got to say it me. And it's a 2021 with 26,000 miles on it, I think.
Yep.
I got it from Cinch, and that's an ongoing saga, which I'm not going to spoil because part 2 will be on my YouTube channel soon.
Yep.
But certainly go and check out my YouTube channel if you want to see part 1. And I've also done a couple of little sort of upgrades to infotainment kind of inside the car, so you can go and check that out as well. But it's great. It's just a fun little car. Really interesting because obviously it's the same car as the E-Up and the Skoda Citigo.
Yeah.
Aside from some interior changes, I actually prefer the interior on the Me to both the others.
Okay.
Because it's got like the white, sort of slightly funky looking dash. But I wish I had the steering wheel from the E-Up because the one on the Seat is poop.
Yeah.
I think that's the technical term. But yeah, it's just a a great fun little car. And sometimes now, if I've got that and the Tesla on the drive, I take that. Like if I'm just going somewhere around town, it's so easy to park. I actually got a full week shop in the boot of it as well, which the boot looks tiny, but
Yeah.
it's quite deep.
Yep.
So it's deceptively spacious, really. I guess the same as your car, Alex, pretty much.
Yeah, they're exactly the same. Like there's only two of us that use the car. We haven't got any kids or anything, but we go on a holiday regularly in that car and fold the seats down, put suitcases in. I go to the tip in my car. It's like a little van. It's like a very square shape. Put a load of crap in the back of the car. It's fine. So
Yeah.
they're
But no, loving it so far. I think it's great.
the size of those of the up and stuff is, and that size car. It's so flat at the back, so you're not gonna reverse into anything. And just driving it around town or car parks or whatever, it's so easy. It's just so diddy, so it's nice.
Yeah. I do find a certain like arrogance as well for a man of my size and age, driving around in, a teenager's car. Really, I do find something funny about it, and I do enjoy that about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. The one pedal drive's quite good as well.
Oh, it's got
It's
that.
not it's not one pedal, but if driven carefully,
Yeah.
you can use it, and it's quite good because the brakes are quite agricultural. So the engine braking, if you like, the motor braking, is much nicer than actually applying the brake pedal.
Nice. And then one of the things you did to your car was you put like a MagSafe thing in the dash. I've actually bought the exact same things you've bought and fitted it yesterday. Works great. It's nice, nice solution. So.
Does your phone spin on it a bit when you're driving or not?
No, so I took it out yesterday, did some aggressive driving, sort of around corners and stuff. And no, it didn't move at all. But
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I think it's because I've got like this sort of fairly scratchy plastic case on mine,
yeah,
so I might need to change that.
I've got one of the fabric cases from Apple that is weathered a bit. But
Oh, okay. Yeah.
so, yeah.
I've got a mouse one because I drop mine about every 12 minutes, and with the mouse case, it makes them sort of more or less indestructible.
That's
But
good.
it does
Yeah.
make it a bit slidey on that thing, so
Yeah.
I might have to do some further modification to it.
Yeah, no, it works great. I'm glad you suggested it because it's something I wanted to do for a while, but never got around to doing. So,
Yeah, because there's no like convenient place to charge the phone, is there?
well, I just put it in the dock. Like I'd use my phone as the sat nav in the dock thing, the little arms.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a faff, so I just slap it in the MagSafe thing now. So yeah.
By the way, that car screen thing I've got for the CarPlay is brilliant.
Oh, okay.
It's so good. I don't know if you've got that little shelf in the
I have,
app or
yeah.
not, but yeah. So it's ideally suited.
Fair enough.
It's a bit of an odd place to look
It is, isn't it?
for the screen, but I'm basically using it as a stereo, so it's just kind of got Apple Music running most of the time.
Yeah, interestingly, the up when it was sold in Brazil, they jigged it around a bit, so that where the climate section is and the radio, they put a screen in there, and they put the Polo climate dials where that shelf is. So,
oh, okay,
but
that would be.
Don't know why
nice,
they didn't do that here, but yeah. So,
oh well,
yeah. I only drove one EV recently. I went to one of the mini dealerships near me, and after your rave review of the new Mini Electric, I needed to drive one. So I took it out for about an hour, and oh my god, it's so fun. The interior is a little bit too simple for my liking, but it looks really cool. Like it's a little bit too plain, and the ride's quite stiff. But overall, it's very fun and very like engaging to drive. I thought it was really good.
yeah. I think that stiffness is part of what makes it so much fun, though, because it's that stiff and it just sits.
Yeah.
You can throw it into anything, and you're not kind of rolling or you feel like you're attached to the road at all times, and it's that stiffness that probably does it.
Yep.
The interior, I really like that cloth.
Yeah.
They've gone with that sort of recycled cloth, haven't they?
Yep.
And Yeah, I like it a lot personally, but I had the John Cooper Works trim
That's the one
though,
I test
which is
drove. Yeah,
oh
yeah,
okay, yeah, I like it.
yeah. It does look good. It's just like compared to the last gen, it's potentially a little bit too simple. But yeah, it definitely looks nice, and they had all different versions in the dealership, so I thought that was really cool. And then what have you been driving recently, or driving next week, or whatever?
I've got a Polestar 2 this week. So the new version of the Polestar 2, I've got the single motor long range. They claim 400 and something miles of range on it, but reality is about, I haven't actually done the sums, but it's probably early 300s. I did Birmingham yesterday, so 160 something
Oh
miles,
yeah,
and it was I was getting 4.1.
wow, yeah,
Yeah, which is not terrible, I don't think, for the size and weight of the car. And the I love the look of the Polestar 2. I think it's a beautiful looking car. I love the back end and what they've done with the brake light on it, and it just feels so refined.
yeah, yeah.
It does feel really heavy though.
Mm,
If you compare it, so I think of the real competitors to that. I think the Model 3,
yeah,
the Ioniq 6, and the BYD Seal. And the BYD Seal and the Model 3 feel much, much more like sports cars. And I think the Ioniq 6 feels more like that sports tourer kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So slightly more relaxed. But the Polestar 2 feels very heavy. But if you're someone that wants a 5 Series type experience, or that kind of Mercedes experience, or you're used to driving around in something like an A4 or an A6, I think the Polestar 2 is so well placed, and the interior is way more traditional.
Mm,
Um, the infotainment system is a little bit hit and miss,
mm.
but yeah, no, it's a really, really solid effort.
Pretty good. And there should be a video coming to your channel pretty soon. So
Probably, yeah, probably next week or maybe the week after. I've got a holiday coming up in August, and I have to decide kind of which videos I can have in stock for while I'm away,
yes,
so that I've still got a house when I get back. So it might be one that I end up holding back, but I don't know. I've got the EV6 GT coming next week.
oh nice, very good.
Actually, coming tomorrow. Yeah, it's coming tomorrow. Um, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that one as well. Actually,
Should be good.
what about you?
I've got. Well, last time we spoke, I didn't have much booked in, but actually got quite a bit booked in now. So I've got the Hyundai Kona coming at some point in August, I believe. I managed to get a Model 3 booked in for September, which is good.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm actually taking that to London, so
How long have you got that
I've got it for a week.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I'm going to London with an old colleague of mine to this Wi-Fi event. But yeah, we're taking the Model 3, so it'd be quite good to test it out, basically. So yeah,
That's. I think you're gonna. Well, I don't know. I think very, very highly of it.
yeah.
So, but we don't always agree.
No, I did test drive one a while back, and I was quite impressed. So
Mm.
yeah, I think that's it. I can't remember. My calendar's somewhere, but all good. Before we go any further, could you please give us a review on the podcast platform of your choice? It really does help this podcast as we're trying to grow this show. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, drop us a like and comment. Again, it really does help. Thank you. Now, I've got a bit of a funny chat next. What's the weirdest thing that has interrupted you during filming? I can start if you want me to.
Yeah, go for it.
I was filming a car, I think it was the BYD Dolphin the other week, and because I live in the middle of nowhere, a pig interrupted my filming. I literally looked around and heard this massive snort. I was like, oh my God. So,
It was just a pig standing
yeah,
there.
it just escaped from a nearby farm, which was quite funny. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've had certainly animal interactions before, but also weirdos. So one that springs to mind. So I often use the same road to do my sort of outside talk to camera
it's a
stuff.
dogging spot, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where I go. Yeah. If it looks like like the car's been hit by seagulls or pigeons or something. That's not always the case. Anyway, um, so I'm standing there one day filming a bit to camera, and a dog wandered over and just urinated on my tripod. Not a euphemism, unfortunately. Um, Another day, I was there filming a piece to camera, and an old man appeared from literally from the bushes doing his flies
Oh
up.
my
I
god.
guess he just been and had a wee in the trees or something. And I'm literally standing there with a piece of paper in my hand because obviously I've got no short term memory, talking to the camera in front of this car. And this old man just comes up and starts having a chat with me.
Oh.
This is a nice car. What are you doing? And constantly I get interrupted by cyclists. So I'm filming a bit to camera, and then someone will just shoot past on a bike at about
Oh yeah.
1,000 miles an hour, dressed as a Power Ranger. So yeah, that's fairly typical kind of stuff. But most of the time, it's people that want to come over and ask what I'm doing whilst I'm doing it.
Yeah, I don't tend to get interrupted that often. That's why I brought it up. But because I film at home, but like I don't tend to film in public that much. So, but yeah, I thought, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like I think just go, oh, what are you doing? Like I think you mentioned it when we did the GV60 last year. Like oh, what are you doing? Sort of stuff. So it's quite funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into some news. So, as we mentioned earlier in the show, the new Ford Capri has been announced. Now, this is a Volkswagen-related SUV that's very similar to the Ford Explorer. It uses the Volkswagen platform. I can't remember I think it's MEB platform.
Yep.
There's two battery sizes, 77 and 79 kilowatt. Weirdly, the smaller battery has 390 miles of range, and the larger battery has 367 miles of range, because it uses different chemistry. I don't understand why it's got less range, but anyway. And then at some point in the future, there will be a 52 kilowatt version using a lithium-ion NMC battery, and prices currently start from a whopping £48,000. Yeah, the design, in my opinion, looks quite cool potentially, but the way they've gone about the marketing is it has ruffled a lot of feathers, but I think in the long term it's possibly quite a good idea. I'm not sure. So
I'll explain why
okay,
you're wrong,
go on.
Alex, now. Yeah. So the design is, it looks like somebody went into Poundland and bought a kind of off-brand toy car Polestar, and then left it in the sun and it melted a bit. They then gouged out their eyes with a spoon, got some crayons, and threw them at some paper. And I think that's how they came up with that design, because there can be no other sensible explanation. It's just like I call it the Poundland Polestar, because
Yeah.
it does look like a really badly drawn Polestar. I think it's a hideous looking vehicle. Ford have banged on about how it was really important for them to look like important for it to look like a Capri, and it looks nothing like a Capri. And I think it's just so lazy. I think Ford have got two electric vehicles currently that are both mid-size SUVs, and they're adding a third mid-size SUV. Let's not forget that Ford are a brand that kind of cut their teeth on having a Super Mini and a brilliant mid-size family hatchback and family saloons. And then the Capri itself, if we actually need to use that nameplate on it, the Capri itself was their attempt at kind of a two-seat muscle car, or a two-door muscle car, sorry. And they could have done something amazing with it. Look at Renault 5, that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Ford could have done that whole retro modern thing with the Capri, and they would have sold bucket loads of them, and not just here, but in the US, in Australia. They're big markets that are crying out for more of those kind of cars, and it's not being served at the moment. And that's what the Capri was all about.
Yeah.
just coming out with another 50 grand mid-size SUV that's completely and utterly bland and looks worse than the Ford Explorer. I've never been a fan of the Mustang Mach-E in any way, shape, or form, really. But I know it's so disappointing. I think Ford have got some. The Transit's great. Ford have got some really good stuff going on, and I think the Explorer absolutely fine to come up with a second mid-size SUV because obviously mid-size SUVs are a huge market.
Yep.
But I think it's just woeful. I hate it. It's my least favourite car at the moment.
The only reason,
I haven't
one of the arguments I heard, one of the arguments I heard on in the last few weeks was that the Capri came out a very long time ago, and the target market is going to be like people that they recognise the name, but they don't know what it is. And someone said that registering a new name getting a new name that's actually unique is quite difficult because Ford don't do numbers. And that brand is one they've got in the back catalogue, and the people that remember the Capri might not want one anyway. That argument I saw online that it's just a name that they've got in the back catalogue, but I can understand why it's sort of sacrilege a little bit in terms of what the old car was. Yeah,
they've already put Mustang on something that's not a Mustang.
Yep.
And I mean, even that, an electric Ford Mustang, it'd be awesome.
Yep.
Like, it would be the number one car that I want to go and drive would be an electric Ford Mustang.
Like a coupe.
I can't think of any. Yeah, I can't think of anything that could come out that would excite me more. But a Mustang Mach-E, no. And not just because they put the Mustang badge on it, by the way, but to do it again. And Ford have got this huge, like, enthusiast following, and they're just going to be disgusted by it. And
yep.
I don't know. It just seems lazy and at best and stupid at worst, I think. But
yeah,
I haven't got any strong opinions on it, really, though.
Yeah, I can definitely see the point that I made. Like, it's the target market's going to be like 30 to 40, whatever, or maybe like late 30s. They might not. I think it's just a name that they know that people have heard of, but like they might just want one anyway. But this sort of lends us into a story that I originally had for the end of the show. It says, it's the one from the bottom. It says Ford claims that going all electric in Europe by 2023 was too ambitious, in quotes. But I wrote this article in sort of the way that sort of Ford claiming that people, not that it was true, but they're claiming that people aren't interested in EVs. So they originally were saying that by 2023 that they were going to go all EV, but they've now said that this is too ambitious. But the point in the article I made is that all the EVs they've got, apart from the vans, are rubbish. Like, so.
Yeah, it's actually a video that I've got on my list of videos to make. Is car manufacturers saying that the EV targets are not realistic or whatever because no one wants EVs.
Yep.
And the message is actually nobody wants their EVs.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we've mentioned this on the show before.
Yeah.
So it says Ford currently offers the Mustang Mach-E, Explorer, and Capri, all expensive SUVs, like all of them, I think above 40k. And I think I said here, Ford canned the Fiesta and didn't replace it with an EV of the same size, and every EV it currently sells is an expensive SUV and does not compete on price with Tesla, because the Tesla Model 3 is like 39k. So I don't agree that these companies are sort of claiming this, and I looked on some of the comments on Autocar's Twitter posts. It's like people disagreeing, oh yeah, they're rubbish, that sort of thing. But like, and I put in the article that even though they're claiming this, SMMT have said that EV sales are up, despite what Ford says. So,
it's just Fords aren't, because they've been lazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can definitely see both sides with this.
I think there's I think there's just like a real arrogance from car manufacturers where they think if we make it, people will buy it.
Yeah.
Because we've made it, and it's not like that. All these challenger brands, and just take Tesla alone, and think we have to have something to compete with this.
Yep.
and it either needs to be better or cheaper or both.
Yep.
And instead, they just put out 3 mid-size SUVs, and they've had to do a joint venture with VW to do that.
Yep. Yeah, and both the
Sad.
Explorer and the Capri have the worst bits of VWs in them. So they have the window controls. They got, not that that's a massive issue, but they got the 2 switches and the switcher between the 2 things. They've also got the haptic. I think they've got haptic on the button on the steering wheel. They've also got the slidey bits for the heating as well. So like,
Yeah.
is it, why have you taken the bits that people whinge about? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought this was interesting. So in China, BYD have updated the Dolphin. The Dolphin in the UK and the Dolphin in China look very similar, but they're very different. The one in the UK is a little bit bigger. It's obviously a lot safer. The one in China looks a bit more. The front of it's a bit more raked. But anyway, they've updated the pricing. They've updated the range. So they're offering larger batteries now. But the main bit I found here was that the model with 261 miles of range is the equivalent of £11,000. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It is, and then by the time it gets here, and we've put various tariffs and taxes on top of it.
I know.
Yeah, it's awful. We're not. I don't know. Obviously, there's this new EU tariff as well on Chinese-made vehicles, and people have strong opinions about how China is kind of taking over the world of manufacturing, and now they're going for this, but I don't know. It feels like there's not a level playing field,
No.
and a lot of the companies that are lobbying against these Chinese cars are companies that are making billions in profit.
Yeah.
You know, VW have said they can't compete with the Chinese cars on price, but they made 23 billion euros last year.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that in the video recently. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of euros.
Yeah, the cheaper one has a 45 blade battery, 45 kilowatt battery pack, sorry. And then the one that has 323 miles of range and a 60 kilowatt battery pack is £14,000.
Wow.
So, like the equivalent of £14,000. And one of the main highlights from the article I found was that to date, the Dolphin, BYD have produced 700,000 units of the Dolphin. That is just humongous.
Jeez. It is.
But to get around these tariffs that you mentioned, the company is trying to produce cars outside of China now. So they've got a new factory in Thailand that's just opened, which will help. They've got one coming soon in Turkey. And then there is a plan for factories in Brazil and Mexico. So the Mexico one, I think they got plans to feed North America with that one, which should get around the 100% tariff that they got planned. Whatever will happen with that.
There's some talk of them coming here as well, isn't there? Whispers, anyway.
Yeah, I believe so. Not sure what's happening there, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Not really relevant to our listener base, but just how crazy things, like half the price. So, I don't know if you saw this car in person at Goodwood, but MG debuted the coupe version of the Cyberstar called the Cyber GTS at Goodwood. This is officially a concept car, but I think this will go into production regardless, because but this is a 2+2 4-seater kind of thing, but looks mega. All the commentary I saw online said that this looked really cool, so I'm glad they've made this. And what's interesting is that the designers at MG said that the Cyberstar was always designed to be a coupe and a convertible. They had that plan in place, so yeah, looks great.
Yeah, it does look really cool, and in both forms actually. I think it's just a brilliant looking thing, and hope we get to drive one at some point.
Yeah, it'd be pretty good. And what's quite coincidental is that the 60th anniversary of the MGB is next year. So they mentioned that, so that's sort of a hint that'll probably come next year now. So
yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, it would be good. Oh yeah, this was quite good. I thought this was just impressive. Like the Volkswagen have launched a new trim level of the ID.7 saloon car called the Pro S, and it has a whopping 436 miles of range, which is, despite the size of the battery pack is 86 kilowatt hours, which isn't humongous because there are cars with like 100 kilowatt
Yeah.
now. That's the
Yep.
drag coefficient of that car must be insane to get that
Yeah.
efficiency out of it. That's so impressive.
That's something where you can't argue against. Well, why wouldn't you just buy a Tesla? Because going back to that thing I said earlier of you need to be cheaper or better or both.
Yep.
Well, they've gone for better in terms of the amount of range you can get from it. Yes, it's more expensive, but it's got loads of range and it's a big car, so you get more real estate and it goes further.
Yep.
And a lot of people that are using these as company cars, that could be a massive difference maker.
Yep.
Because a lot of company car owners are obviously doing huge motorway miles. When I had a company car, I used to do 30,000 business miles in it every year. So you do put lots and lots of miles on the clock, and that is a real difference maker. So well done, VW. I think. I mean, 55 grand's not cheap, but it's a company car. Doesn't matter particularly.
Yeah.
Quite often.
And typically, when electric car has like one benefit, it sacrifices other ones. But these have like 200 kilowatt charging, so that's like more than enough for what people need. I just thought that was just impressive, like in terms of the range they get. Like the estate version has the same battery, but has like 424 miles of range, so only slightly less. But yeah, it looks really good.
And it's a pretty huge car as well, isn't it? To get
it is massive.
That kind of
yeah.
Yeah.
When I test drove one of those in Milton Keynes a while back, I tried to park in a car park. I was like, my God, this is just too big. Like it is massive, but the rear leg room's really good, and it's it is good. Like build quality is insane. Materials inside are really good as well. Just very impressive, but very expensive. So
I could see those being used as like airport taxis and chauffeur cars and things as well. Maybe
that'd be lovely because the sunroof in those is just like it's so nice in the back, and it's got that same what do they call it? Like a crystal thing, like electronic thing that it goes opaque, basically like frosted glass, like in the Buzz.
Yeah.
That's just very, very clever, and that probably increases headroom because I noticed in some cars with the sunroof they lose a bit of headroom because of the where it cores up. So, yeah. All right. So, as of recording, Jaguar only sells the one brand new car. It's the F-Pace SUV. So they've actually discontinued all of their models. So the I-Pace is gone, the E-Pace is gone, the XF, XE, F-Type, they've all gone, and the only new car that they were building is now the F-Pace. The reason for that is Jaguar is going all EV next year. But yeah, they've been in the last few months they've been busy trimming down all the models they sell. The main reason for keeping the F-Pace around is because it's their best-selling car. In 2023 they sold 21,000 or 22,000, and for comparison, they sold 8,000 E-Paces and like 5,000 I-Pace. So yeah, so the original factory, well, the E-Pace and I-Pace are made in Austria by Magna, which also make the Ineos, and I think the Ineos and stuff. And then the XE, XF, and F-Type were made in Castle Bromwich, and then the F-Pace is made in Solihull alongside the Range Rovers. So the factory is now going to be used for their electric car production. But yeah, basically Jaguar's going to go way up market. It's always been quite a middle brand kind of, but their electric car is going to be about 100k with about 430 miles of range. So it's interesting.
Yeah, because they like Jag used to be a more upmarket brand, didn't it? And then it's really when they bought the XF and the XE and the X Type actually before either of those.
Yes, actually, yeah.
Which was a Mondeo.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was the first time they sort of became a bit more everyman, I guess. Albeit still at the more premium end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mad to think that you can only buy one new Jaguar at the moment.
There's actually been built like build to order. You can obviously buy stock over the other ones, but
yeah. But if you want to go and factory spec something, it's this one or not.
Yeah, weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we shall see what happens. Basically, Jaguar said that all the other models aren't making them any money, so they're just going to replaced them. And relatedly, Land Rover itself, they've got a new. I think we mentioned it last episode. They got the new electric Range Rover coming at some point. They've had a lot of pre-orders for that, a lot of interest. Sorry, and that'll be no doubt quite popular with people because of the prestige of Range Rovers. So, yeah, that shall be quite interesting. Go on.
BYD's bringing its sub-brand Fangcheng Bao to the UK. I haven't heard this.
Yeah, there's some weirdly named brands, aren't there? There's like Yangwang, Denza, and Fangcheng Bao. Okay.
That's a difficult one. It's one of those things that you like almost need to sound racist to pronounce, like Fangcheng Bao.
Yeah.
I'm sure every Englishman's going to offend every Chinese person with their pronunciation of that.
Well, every time I mention it in the article, I had to copy and paste it, so that I couldn't spell it. This is a very, very new brand. It was only launched in 2023, I believe. Yeah, launched in 2023. It mainly specialises in off-roaders. It was announced at the president of BYD, Stella Lee, spoke to Autocar Goodwood last week and said that they will plan on bringing this brand to the UK, and they are basically Land Rover rivals. There is an EV version coming of their smaller model, the Bao 3, which is going to be the same sort of size as the Ford Explorer, with 317 miles of range. But they are going to have other hybrids on sale first. So they got the Bao 5 and the Bao 8. I don't think the Bao 8 will come here because it is massive. But the Bao 5 is a hybrid with a blade battery as well, like the Yangwang U8, and there's about 700 horsepower. But apparently all the vehicles will have the same suspension system as the U8 and U9, so you'll be able to dance and do random stuff. So,
yeah, nice.
Yeah,
it's always useful.
Yeah. I thought that was quite cool. It's always cool, as we said. It's always cool to have new brands. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Right. Next we have Ineos. So back in February this year, Ineos announced their first and only electric vehicle, the Fusila. However, they've now, again, like we mentioned, Ford, they've now claimed that no one's interested in EVs, so they're not going to make it. So,
yeah, how many people that are in the market for an Ineos in the first place? Which I don't imagine it's a huge market. I don't imagine they're expecting to sell any of their vehicles in the thousands, probably. How many of them look at the Fusilier and think, "Oh, that's exactly what I want"? The people that want a 4x4 like an Ineos are people that want a Land Rover Defender generally, and they're people that want 4x4 and diesel grunt or petrol grunt.
Yep.
And I just don't think it's the right. It feels like the wrong brand for an electric vehicle. So probably most of their customers are set in their ways, shall we say, especially when it comes to things like the fuel that's powering their vehicles. So I'm not massively surprised by this, and I was really surprised they announced one in the first place. It feels like an odd thing for me, Ineos. I was looking at them at Goodwood, and apart from footballers and maybe some well-heeled farmers, I don't really know who their customer is.
I've seen on the road quite a few of them. They tend to be towing trailers, or they tend to be liveried up with some brand or something like Recovery potentially, or like farming companies. So, they tend to be. I've driven one last year, I think, but they are nice, but they, there's a very limited market. I do wonder what will happen to them come the ZEV. Well, once the ZEV mandate increases it each year, what are they going to do?
Yeah,
like are they going to buy credits from other companies and just survive that way until they have to make something? I don't know. But yeah,
Or maybe they just put their price up to pay for the fines.
That's true. Yeah, they could do.
Hmm.
Yeah. So they said they're delaying the launch of it for 2 reasons. They said customers are reluctant to buy EVs, and they blamed government. They said there's no tariffs, so there's uncertainty around tariffs. There's no they said there's no infrastructure and there's no customer confidence. So yeah.
Okay.
Next is the Hyundai Ioniq 5. It had a very minor sort of refresh the other week. The prices are now cheaper, so it's about £3,500 cheaper. So it's now the same price as the Model 3, just under 40 grand. And the batteries are now a bit bigger. So in the old one, you had 58 and 73 kilowatt hours, and now you have 63 and 84, and that will give you up to 354 miles of range. And I believe that large battery is from the same as the Ioniq 5N. So that's all good. So yeah.
So and that's 800-volt architecture on that as well. So super fast charging. Yeah, yeah. The Ioniq 5. Have you had one yet, Alex?
No, I haven't. I haven't even driven one yet. No.
Oh, they're just brilliant cars.
Yeah.
Like they're so good. The Ioniq 5 and 6 are like two of my favorite electric cars of any brand.
I can see why. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just great. I think they look so cool as well. But I'm always surprised I don't see more Ioniq 5s on the road.
I see quite a few.
Yeah, they're not rare, but I sort of thought it might become almost the Ford Focus of electric vehicles. I know that's the Tesla, so that's probably unfair, but I thought it would probably become sort of number 2 or 3 of electric vehicles you see on the road.
No, as I mentioned before on the show, I think I really do believe that the Hyundai Motor Group is doing some incredible stuff with their 3 brands in terms of EVs. They seem to be not following in the stupid footsteps of everyone else and just doing their own thing, and they're reaping success. I've seen a lot of stories on Electrek saying they're a US-focused EV website, but they're saying that Hyundai over there is selling they're doing gangbuster numbers, so in the US at least. So that's really good for them.
It feels like they just got ahead of it a bit and started with a blank sheet of paper rather than thinking, well, what are we known for? What do we do? It's a case of what's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that Ioniq 6. It looks the way it does, which is slightly polarizing, but it looks the way it does for a reason, and that's to make it as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make the most efficient electric car at the time.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I drove one of those briefly at the thing we did, the SMMT day we did in May, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, just absolutely amazing. So really good. Fantastic. And the very last thing we've got is Rivian, which, for those who don't know, make big electric trucks and stuff in the US. The CEO, RJ Scaringe, he did interview.
We'll go for that.
He did an interview with Nilay Patel from The Verge the other day, and he got questioned and said, "Why haven't you got CarPlay on your cars?" And he says, "Well, we're not going to do it because apparently they don't want to give up software control to Apple, essentially, because." And also, I think he said it ruins the flow of using the screen, because if you dive into Apple CarPlay, then you've got to come out again to go to climate and that sort of thing. And the thing I was going to ask you is, as an owner of a car that doesn't have CarPlay, when you drive your Tesla, do you miss not having it, or is it fine?
Just very, very occasionally. So the thing I like with CarPlay is if someone sends a WhatsApp or a text or something, you can have it read to you and then just easily send one back. I think you can do that to a degree with the Tesla for normal messages, but I don't think you can do it for WhatsApp. I haven't got it set up for either anyway.
Oh, right.
But I actually pay that £10 a month to Tesla, where you get the cheaper rates and it opens up some extra apps. So I've got like Apple Podcasts and Apple Music. I've got native apps in the Tesla.
Yep.
So, and they work better than on CarPlay because you've got all that screen real estate. And I don't know, it just seems to I think it's the real estate really that
Mm.
does it. It's the fact you've got the bigger screen. It works really well. So they're great. But yeah, if CarPlay were available, would I use it? Probably not still, because I still think Tesla's so good at incorporating things like charging stops.
Yep.
And if you want to quickly look, I mean, never in that Tesla would I get Zap Map out or something,
Hmm.
because you can just quickly find a charger if you need one. Um, the Polestar 2, actually, that I've got this week, that's really good in that respect as well.
Mm.
It's using Google Maps natively, and that's great in that respect. But the rest of it's much clunkier, and the Apple CarPlay is wired only in that,
Mm.
and it's very temperamental. I've found yesterday, actually, I found it's very temperamental. But yeah, so I think if the company does a good enough job like Tesla has, I don't think you necessarily miss it. But when it's a little bit of a half measure, yeah. That's what I would like to see in CarPlay, is them to really integrate with electric cars a bit more.
Hmm.
If you're in an electric car, if it's pointing out when you might need to charge and where you could possibly go, I mean, that's a Google Maps thing or an Apple Maps thing more than a CarPlay thing, I guess. But
Well, it's a
there
bit
must
of
be some
both.
sort of dialogue between the car and CarPlay. So
Yes, Apple announced that feature a while back, but like, there's only like 3 EVs that support it because it requires
yeah,
some communication to it. In theory, that does actually work, but like,
mm,
I haven't heard much talk about it. I think Porsche in the US do it, so it will tell you where to stop and sort of stuff.
yeah,
But that's why Rivian and Tesla are doing so well, because they've just done it. It just works. You
yeah,
haven't got to wait for anyone else to do stuff, and I can see why. The only reason I would want CarPlay is for exactly what you said. I listen to podcasts a lot while I'm driving, and
mm,
I can't switch between podcasts very easily. So when I'm in my car, because I've only got my phone to use, I just set up a queue of podcasts. But like, if I can just use the app, it's much easier, and I can see why in the Tesla it'd be great, because you've got the actual app to use, which would be quite good. So
yeah. It's really fantastic,
yeah,
actually. Mm.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, definitely have to see what the Tesla software is like when I try it.
I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
So, what have you got coming up, Alex? What have you been working on?
I mentioned it on the UI Chat podcast, the other podcast that I do, but I've been working on a new website for the interface. So I launched it in May, and it's taken me. I've got to now sift through my back catalogue of articles, which is about 4,000, and manually move them over.
Mm.
So doing that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Got a few cars coming up soon, as we mentioned in the show. And as we mentioned, if you can subscribe to the Interface Cars channel, that'd be awesome. Trying to get to 1,000, it'd be really, really appreciated.
Go and do it.
Yeah.
And if you've got any spare time, go and subscribe to mine after, because I'm trying to get to 50,000 this year.
Yeah.
But it's getting there, but slowly.
But when it happens, it'd be very well deserved. So
Oh, thanks, mate. Love you.
you've also got Jet Set Jimbo, which you talk about.
Jet Set Jimbo.
Yeah.
Yes, my new travel channel. So I'm trying to give people, basically, if you've seen my car channel, you know a lot of it's kind of, obviously there's some silly stuff and some reviews and things like that, but there's also quite a lot of consumer advice and things to try and save people money or make their life easier. Well, I'm taking that concept and moving it over to travel, which the first sort of creative thing I ever did in terms of writing or making any content was years ago, about 20 years ago. I had a website and a Facebook group, which was USA Tips for Brits, and it was to help people save lots of money when they were going over to the US, specifically to Florida, which was the UK's #1 travel destination. 1 million Brits a year used to go to Florida. And that all went well, but I got so busy in my other job that I had to sell it eventually. But yeah, I've always had this passion for travel. I've always tried to travel well beyond my means for a price that's within my means. So yeah, I thought I'd share that on another YouTube channel. So Jet Set Jimbo is the channel to look out for.
Yeah, it's all good. And one of the things I mentioned before is that I think the people that watch your channel quite regularly, they know that you like don't mess about. You just tell them how it is, and there's no fluff in the videos. It's just very honest sort of advice, and there's no sort of agendas, which is really nice. So really good. Yeah,
that's the idea.
So definitely, go and subscribe to Jim's channels, and if you can, subscribe to the Interface Cars. Links are in the show notes. That's pretty much it, I think, for this episode. If you've enjoyed this podcast, share it with your friends. And thanks for tuning into this episode of the Charging Status Podcast. You can find us in video on YouTube and in audio wherever you get your podcasts. For full description of this show, visit the episode link in the show notes. Thanks again, Jim, for joining me on this show. You can find links to our websites, theinterface.uk and notaguru.co.uk in the show notes. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon.